You know, it's bad enough that after years of marriage and memories together that she wants to leave you. But to rub acidic salt into your bleeding heart by altering your love story, saying things like, you know, I haven't loved you for years. Or sex with you was just a way to see if I still cared. And on top of that, she refuses to see how much you're actually changing and how her leaving you is making you a better man. I mean, she says to just give up, let go, stop fighting, that your changes are manipulative. And it seems that every loving word out of your mouth is just designed to get her back. And you feel like you've been cast into another dimension, married to a different version of your wife that coexists in the multiverse. Well, I can assure you that even if other dimensions do exist, which they definitely do, this is the same version of your wife, and you haven't been cast anywhere, except maybe the doghouse. So in this video, I'll explain 4 concepts that will not only bring clarity to why your wife alters the past, but will make her see that your changes are real. She will trust that you are the man for her, and she will shift her focus from the past to a bright future with you again. By the way, the 4th point will completely wipe away the pain that you're experiencing right now. It will replace it with this unshakable confidence and inner peace. I'll also share a story from a client that experienced this firsthand, so let's jump in. This iconic scene from The Matrix with Neo and Morpheus, it really explores the concept of choosing between the harsh reality and the comfortable illusion. It's often used to discuss the concept of truth and perception, but in the case of husbands facing the threat of divorce, they're dealing with a different kind of truth versus perception scenario. What do I mean by this? Look, a client recently told me, hey Josh, my wife is altering the past and twisting the narrative in her favor. Listen, I can imagine how frustrating that would be for you, but this is actually a more common pattern than you think. The first thing you need to understand is the key difference in the emotional narrative between the feminine and masculine paradigm. Okay? Generally speaking, women let their emotions guide their perceptions more than us men do. So we have an idea of what truth is, but her truth is based in her emotions. We have this objectivism grounded in empirical data as much as we possibly can. That's more in the masculine frame, focusing on the structure and the material, right? That makes sense to you. We have honor. We don't want to lie. On the other hand, women are more transient and fluid with the way they base their narrative and how they see events in their stories. To them, it makes sense when they consider it truth based on how they feel. This is the principle of feminine transience. And all my empirical people out there, to argue what reality is, for me, honestly, I can see from the feminine perspective, I can see how the truth is a subjective experience. And whether you agree with it or not, that there is this objective truth despite the perception, to her, she sees her truth as her truth. Now, another concept that comes to mind when I talk about this is the philosophical idea of solipsism. This idea suggests that only one's own mind is for sure to exist. So it describes someone who tends to see their perspective as the only valid truth in reality, shutting down other viewpoints, right? So it's seen as like the supreme selfishness. Therefore, solipsism has a negative connotation or disregard of the other people's thoughts and feelings, right? There's a stereotype that women are more solipsistic because they're believed to let their emotions guide their perceptions, creating a reality that's shaped by their feelings, right? Where men don't do that as much. Right? They have their feelings, but they see the way things are. You see, we rely on the facts. Now, I don't want to oversimplify a harmful gender stereotype, but we have to accept that this is a difference between us men and women. Knowing this should not bring frustration. It should bring acceptance for that's the way she is. Realizing that if you change her emotions, you can change the way that she perceives reality and you, right? Recognize that you have power in doing this, which is why this next skill is of primary importance. This whole idea of the shore and the ocean, okay? If you haven't heard me talk about this, as the masculine core, your essence is like you are the shore and she is the ocean. Now, at times when the storms of emotion are not riling up in those winds, the feminine nature can brush against the shore and be soft and supple and beautiful. But when those emotions hit you, you have to remain strong and stable to make her feel safe with you. This emotional safety allows her to be who she is and feel comfortable expressing herself, leading to a more emotional connection. Being defensive, shutting down, getting angry back at her is breaking yourself, and then she feels like she cannot rely on you. That lack of trust just causes her to be more erratic and less safe with you and not being able to rely on you. And this is one of the biggest mistakes behaviorally that I see so many men make with their wives. When you are the shore, you're making emotional deposits into her emotional bank account. What does this mean? You see, every positive experience you have with her where she feels safe with you is depositing an emotional investment. But every time you do something negative in a low value state, it's removing a negative emotional state or injecting a negative or removing a positive, however you want to see it. But the point is that there's this tipping scale in this bank account, right? That subconsciously she's registering all the emotional experiences that she has with you. And over time, what happens is that there becomes more negative experiences that are piling up, and you're overdrawing or overdrafting in this emotional bank account in her subconscious mind. And then she starts to feel more negative towards you and shifts that perception. You see how this all piles together. You do not control her emotions, but you can influence them by your own behaviors, because that's what you should focus on, okay? Your reactions to her. The next time you're talking to her, imagine yourself as this solid, stable shore, unreactive, almost like there's a force field right here, and her words are hitting the force field, not able to penetrate your mind. Now, this third principle has to do with someone that you've known a lot longer than your wife, right? Someone who had a huge impact on your life, whether you're conscious of it or not. This person installed some old software into your system that has guided your life in a negative way, producing a lot of the stuff that you have with your wife, okay? And the man guilty of this installation was your father. Whether or not you see him as a role model, or you have just a horrible relationship, or just a complicated one, which is a combination of both, this third principle has everything to do with it. And once you understand this, you can rewire that software to install a new update to get a different result. For better or for worse, your father's karma and his history has played a vast role in the way you relate with your wife. And it's going down to your kids if you have some. And this karma does play out. And the reason why it does is because in that environment with him, you had to adopt and become a certain man in order to survive with him, in order to get acceptance, to get attention, right? And so you are playing out these generational patterns with your wife, whether you know it or not. And if you even analyze the pattern that you have with your wife, your father had with your mom, you will see similarities that it's pretty striking. Even if you try to do nothing to be him, you still subconsciously adopted some of the ways of being, okay? Whether you know it or not. And being able to become the man that your father wasn't to your mother allows you to be a better protector for her, right? Not just a provider, but a better protector. And that protector role adds to that safety element that we talked about before. Now, this concept of protection is a lot broader than it seems. It's not just about physical safety, but about creating a supportive, respectful, and loving environment for her. Relationship expert John Gottman even said that relationship safety is equated to emotional safety. It is a crucial element in cultivating meaningful connections in relationships, according to the Gottmans. And it points out that feeling emotionally secure allows us to be vulnerable. And that is the key to building intimacy and trust with others, especially in a romantic relationship. So the idea here is that our nervous system needs to feel safe for us to open up socially, which then leads to greater collaboration, creativity, and deeper bonds. When you could see that the foundational piece holding your relationship together has been this emotional safety, and how your responses to her have created that disconnect, it's just like this giant freaking light bulb has gone off for you. Emotional safety is crucial for healthy interactions and emotional well-being, and it is the keystone need that we have to cultivate that unconditional acceptance amongst each other. When couples have that emotional safety net, no matter what issue there is on the surface, it can always be dealt with because you can fall back on knowing that you guys are secure with each other, right? Does that make sense? Now for this fourth one, I want you to think back about when you first met your wife. What were you like? What do you think attracted her to you? And whatever the details are, one thing that I find across every guy that I work with is that they all have their ikigai. Now, ikigai is a Japanese concept that translates to reason for being. It is the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. That driving, motivational force that gives you a sense of purpose and fulfillment in life. And so many men that I work with have lost that. For them, it was their wife and their family was their ikigai. Essentially, ikigai is a sweet spot where what you love and what you're good at, what the world needs and what you can be paid for, it all overlaps into one core reason, that core purpose. And it's not something that you just kind of come up with automatically. What happens is that you need to do things in your life. You need to try new things, lean into your edge, which means do things you are afraid of and uncomfortable with. And what that does is each fearful thing that you go toward, because fear is that compass towards what you actually desire, it puts brushstrokes on this canvas, painting a clear picture of your purpose. But so many men are afraid to lean into that, and they go back to the complacency and the safety of what is familiar. But when you are familiar as a man, when you are in complacency, you are not growing. And if you're not growing, you are dying. And she feels that fire in you has fallen apart. That's why so many guys, when they were in the military or when they first met their husbands and they were like captain of the football team or like in college and they were just a man, they were on that purpose. They were going towards something higher, and that's what she was drawn to. She wasn't drawn to these external metrics of like, oh, you're this height, you have this career, you have this promise. No, she kind of like, you have to recognize, In a woman's mind, she bypasses all those external objective metrics and she sees the behavior, the man that you are, that fire, that emotion that's inside of you. When she's talking to you, she wasn't hearing the words that you were saying to her. She was picking up on your energy, right? That's who you were, your values, your purpose. And what happens with so many men is that you lost that because, look, I get it. You want to just be at peace. You want to not try. It's hard to be a leader. It is hard to take responsibility. It is scary to go toward fear. I get that. It is your brain's main goal to just be safe, right? Wake up. Wake the up. You've been sleeping. You've been taking it easy. You need that fire under your ass again. That's what motivated you. That's when time just flew by, right? Not from an escapism, but from a going into, right? Where you enter that flow state where things just kind of pass by. You remember the last time you just had a full day where just like there was so much to do that depression couldn't hit a moving target because you were so busy, you were chasing that goal? Once you never stop doing that, man, you don't have time to go into your head worrying about your wife leaving you. You see what I mean? You don't have time to think about your needs. You're giving to this world. You're fulfilling your purpose. You are being selfish if you do otherwise. This life isn't about you. This life is about giving. And by that process of finding your talents and providing them to the world, that's where fulfillment comes from, doesn't it? So, that being said, find that passion, man. What are you afraid of doing that you know deep down when you listen inside your heart, that little whisper of that voice saying like, yeah, that's it, that's the one. What was that hobby, that thing you always wanted to do that you never done? Because once you stoke that fire, it is that warm center that just brings her back in. Everyone wants to go around a campfire and sing songs, right? You create that fire from within, okay? If you need help with the materials, with finding that spark, that's when you set up a call down below with our team and we will give you a game plan to get that back, to get her back. Because without that, there is no technique, there is no words you could say, there is no exercise, there's no information out there. If you don't get that piece down, I'm sorry, then you won't get it. But I want you to, okay?